Hi, welcome to my vlog. This is Darlene Sheridan of New Revelations, and this is Stop in the Name of Love. Before you break your heart, you need to think some things over. We've been talking about all the different types of red flags that says warning, move away, stop, don't go any further. And today I want to talk to you about a couple by the name of Jane and Johnnie. Jane has some of the same red flags that I've talked to you about in the last few weeks, but nonetheless, the relationship continued on. So you probably have already met a Jane and Johnnie. You may be a Jane and Johnnie. Your parents may have been Jane and Johnnie. But I just wanted to tell you what the cycles of this type of relationship looks like. So we'll start off with the most confusing stage of all, and it's called the honeymoon stage. Two people who are joined together, what appears to be a loving, healthy relationship. You probably hear Jane say things like this: how sweet and wonderful and kind her Johnnie is. How Johnnie just lavishes her with gifts, and how he does whatever it takes to make her feel special. Well, Jane isn't lying. She isn't making up things because Jane and Johnnie really do have some good times together. And this is a wonderful time for Jane. Why wouldn't it be? This is everything that Jane has always wanted in a relationship. Well, the reason a honeymoon stage exists in the first place is because Johnnie, her partner, has done something awful. And now he is pulling out all the stops, turning on all the charms, and doing whatever it takes to convince Jane to stay because he has vented his anger and now he's afraid that she will leave him, maybe call the domestic violence hotline service or call the police. So Johnnie is being extra, extra kind. And this is why the honeymoon stage from the outside in looks like any other relationship. So pretty soon the honeymoon stage becomes more of a normal phase. Johnnie is no longer actively romancing Jane, but things are pretty good, pretty normal. And Jane has decided that she's going to put all of that bad stuff behind her because it's obvious Johnnie has turned over a new leaf. If only things could stay that way. Well, the second cycle is the rising tension phase. There is an edge in the air, and you can feel that the tension has filled the very walls of that home. Now, Jane is trying extra hard to be nice and kind and agreeable, and she's overlooking some of the warning signs because she really hates to admit that the good times are now behind her. Everyone in that household knows that the tension is building. So, for you who live here in Atlanta, Johnnie brings in the load with him from his anxiety over Highway 285, 75, 85, 20, 400, frustration with his own insecurities, accusations that his problems are because of his boss, his mom, his dad, his sibling, and especially Jane. Now, Jane is walking on eggshells trying to keep the peace. More and more of his abusive traits are coming back: the name calling, the drinking, neglecting the family, mind games, accusing her of seeing other men, twisting the scriptures, holy scriptures, in order for her to be submitted to his crazy way of thinking. And he is becoming more and more agitated, and things are spinning out of control for Jane. The third cycle, the explosion stage. The explosions varies with the abuser. It can take many forms. It can be emotional, verbal, sexual, but usually many times, at least what we see on the news, it is physical. But when it happens, there's no mistaking it. Sometimes it involves drugs or alcohol, the children, the pets, weapons, police, the SWAT teams, the hospital, and yes, many times it even, unfortunately, involves the morgue. But every time the tension happens, it is really something terrible. Now, you usually can recognize the victims of this type of fury. However, they are not the same. They have been just wrung out. They avoid their family and friends, isolation. They have unexplained injuries, sicknesses, absences. They are substance abusers themselves. They suffer from low self esteem, depression, panic disorders, suicidal. They are known as enablers because they continue to excuse the batterer's terrible bad behavior. Now, after this explosion stage, the police have left. Jane has been discharged from the hospital and surveys her physical and emotional damage. Now, maybe this time she'll consult that 1-800-799 SAFE number, the domestic violence hotline number, or she may contact the police, but a lot of times she doesn't do anything. But Johnny contacts her as soon as he can. He is so very sorry. He swears that it will never, ever, ever happen again. He swears on God to witness his sincerity. He manipulates Jane's emotions any way he can, and they had moved back to that first cycle, which I described earlier, called the honeymoon phase. So, what can you and I do about domestic abuse? Well, these vlogs are helping to educate you on what they are, and also is giving you information on what the victim, person like Jane, goes through so you can understand them better. So when you talk to Jane, when you know what's going on, just let Jane know that you're concerned, that you are worried about her and what can you do to help, and just be a listening ear. The person who makes the final decision will be Jane. And a lot of times in these situations, a person goes back one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 times before they make a decision to finally leave the batterer. And I'm going to talk to you later about when you leave a batterer, sometimes the violence escalates, and many people are laying in their graves who have let their batterer. So you have to be wise about some things. I want to leave the 800 number again with you. It's 1-800-799-7233. And before this video ends, I know there are Johnnies who are abused by Janes. The cycles are all the same. Honeymoon phase. That's the most loving part of the relationship. The escalation, that's when tension is building, and finally the explosion stage. And sometimes, after so many years, you totally lose the honeymoon stage. I want you to have healthy, safe, loving relationships. And I want you to know what the red flags are before you enter into a relationship that is as complex as domestic violence. You can visit me at my website at www.newrevelations.com. I love you, and live your life by God's divine design.